Go Canada.
Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.
Yeah, it's about the money. It's about the money. How you doing, man?
Yo, Tony Tone, leave him alone. What up, brother? How you running?
You know, this is what my basement looks like. We should just do it. We should just be sitting on the chairs at some point.
That's really what you be doing.
I got sent this video. I'm lying. I made this video, but I was under duress by Fluent Jr. He said, "You gotta show Uncle Chill some of my highlights from this weekend."
I seen some of it.
So I'm going to just give you just some of the first half. This isn't even any of the defense, which is his. Right. I don't know where he got that from because that ain't for me. But here we go.
He got that from you. That he got from you.
This is a floater. That ain't for me either. It's deep one, but it turns and says preview.
He's just chucking it.
Now that he got for me. Now that
turning unconscious long ball.
Turning around and going before it even goes in. He shouldn't do that. I'm just but it looked
he shouldn't do that. However, it does look cool.
I did enjoy it. He's like, you gotta show Unc. You gotta show Unc. I was waiting to get something, and I didn't get it. And so I don't know if I should read the email that I got about you this weekend.
Oh boy.
Or wait. No, I'm going to read it anyways because I think it's a good story, and I want to give them a shout out because they didn't even know we had this show, and now they do. And it was, and what you did in return, I think was very cool. And so I hope I can find it because I never have anything readily available because that's just who I am. I don't have it. Look at me. I'm the worst. Can you believe I don't have this? How do I not have this? So anyways, over the weekend, I got an email from a gentleman who said, "Hey, I just saw on kind of YouTube, Jermaine. I don't know if I should. I don't use your full name because some people are weird about it, so I didn't." And he says, "Hey, you know, I had your email because I saw like on Chilltown Hoops. We didn't even know Chilltown Hoops existed. But if we go back a whole bunch of years, we were at Hoop Fest. Can you tell me maybe after you'll tell me what Hoop Fest is? We were at Hoop Fest and we saw the most incredible dunk we've ever seen. And we became huge fans of Jermaine. And I was hoping you could, it's one of their 60th birthdays. And I was hoping you could, see if he could send us a text message or a shout out to wish the guy happy birthday. You not only did that, but you also gave him a call. They got back to me and they're like, dude, that was like the most incredible thing. So now I need you to tell me, because he was supposed to send me, I think they have a video, if not at least a photo. What is Hoop Fest? What is this incredible dunk? That like, walk me through this story.
So, first of all, I literally just sent you the email, right?
Oh, thanks. I know why I was in the wrong spot. Oh, yeah, man. Okay, but anyways, thanks.
I sent you the email that was let's see. I'm forwarding this back to Tony. Yep, I just sent you the email. Right? So I sent you that, and this came out of nowhere when you sent me this.
Here it is. I found it. Okay, I'll quickly read it. Long story. In 1992, Brian, no, short story. My friend Brian, I'm not gonna say his last name, turned 60 today, and it would be phenomenal if Jermaine could text him after 6 p.m. because it's to wish him a happy birthday because it's a surprise 60th birthday. Long story. In 1992, Brian, myself, and a couple other friends were visiting a college buddy in Burlington, Vermont, and witnessed Jermaine perform what, to this day, was the greatest dunk we ever saw. It was so memorable that along with Jermaine becoming one of our favorite all-time hoopers, 25 years later, we memorialized the dunk at my annual Hoop Fest pickup basketball, where everyone wore custom Jermaine Champlain junior college t-shirts. The story about how this all came about is legendary, and I tried unsuccessfully to find Jermaine to share it with him. And then just a few minutes ago, I searched Jermaine's name and found this whole Chilltown Hoops thing. Ironically, I'm headed to Brian's surprise 60th birthday party today at 5 p.m. in Long Valley, New Jersey, and thought how incredible it would be to have Jermaine somehow wish him a happy birthday. Unfortunately, like Jermaine, I am an OG and therefore have no social media, no Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter, no TikTok. So the only way to contact me is by phone, this email, I assure you that Jermaine will love to hear my story. Thanks for whatever you can do to make this happen, Pete.
Yep.
Shout out to Pete.
Pete.
And man, I was like, that is so cool. And so obviously I hit you up and I said, yo, and you of course did your thing without hesitation.
Right.
As I had no doubt that you would. So, but can you tell me, what is this? Do you remember this dunk? Can you
So I actually got a hold of him.
Can you describe this dunk?
So what ended up happening with this whole thing was he told me he was in Vermont with his buddy and they were in town, and it was in the winter of 1992. That was my freshman year of college. And January the 18th, they're in town and they got nothing going on. In the process of them having nothing going on, they decided, yo, we heard that there's a really good junior college team up here. Let's go check them out. And he ends up doing that. He ends up getting his guys and they come to the game. I had just, I literally, Tone, I had just gotten back in the lineup. I broke my foot. I had broken my foot earlier in the season. And I had just gotten back in the lineup maybe a week before they show up. And the game that they were at was January the 18th. I forgot the team that we were playing, but they're in town to see this game. And to his point, Tone, we were a pretty big deal in Vermont, in Burlington specifically. There was a Division I school. University of Vermont is in Burlington, and we were a bigger deal than them. And the game that he was at were on the news. I mean, the news would routinely come to our games.
Yeah.
So we had a play that we ran. I'm on the baseline. I'm on the baseline. Two of the bigs are Jaime and Pete. They're on each box, and Jimmy is at the top, the point guard. And the play is called X. I get to the wing. He passes me the ball. I survey. I pass it back to him. I slide to the baseline. The two bigs slide up. They bring the defense with them. I go to the rim, and he throws the ball to the rim. That was the play that we run. So we run this play, and in the process of us running this play, I catch it, and I flush it with two hands. With my weak hand, I'm holding on to the rim, and with my strong hand, I point to the camera. Yes. So I flush it, boom, and I'm getting off the rim, and I point to the camera.
All in one motion.
And all in one motion. It was on the news, and he tells me that he saw this, and he was like, "Yo, I can't believe he did that." And I didn't know it was that big a deal. I just, I'm just being me. I didn't know it was that big a deal. Well, turns out they loved it. He said he calls me. He said he said they loved it. He went to Villanova, and he said he was following me, tried to find out where I was, how they completely memorialized this dunk. and every year they all got together, kind of like a men's league, like a pickup game, and it's called Hoop Fest, and they do something every year, whether it's wear all 24s for Kobe or wear afros for Doc or something like that. They do this every year, and in this particular year, they did this. So they got a whole bunch of shirts, and they got the shirts with. I mean, that's what number I wore when I was in college, and they got the shirts with my name on the back of it. So and I was like, wow, that was
that's pretty special. I'm sorry. I think that, and the fact, and this is what I love about social media, because social media, there's so many negatives.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the good things, because when he reached out, I was like, I hope this isn't like some kind of
weirdo
scam type of thing. And the more I read it, I was like, nah, this is it's legit.
And when he told me the story, I was blown away, because Tone, I moved away. I haven't lived in Jersey since I was a kid, and I moved away. I went to college, then I moved down south, and I've been removed from the game in terms of a player. I've been moved from the game for a long time. And
I saw your PC little games you guys were playing out there. You guys looked horrible.
Oh, I'm awful. My
oh no, you look that's all you guys all look horrible. But anyways,
so there's times when I I got to be reminded that I used to play basketball. I kind of, and then I also remember that there's people who know you, there's people who remember you. So I kind of forget about stuff like that, and this kind of stuff just reminds me that I used to play basketball. Yeah, and I wasn't bad. I could play a little bit.
It brings a smile to your face too, right?
Yeah,
I like it. Like even when I read the story, even when I read it, and I was like, I have to, because I'm not. Well, okay, I'm going to admit this. Occasionally, people reach out, whether it's for me, for you, more for you than me. However, they're weird.
Oh, of course.
Right? I want some of your toenail clippings. I'm like, whoa, delete, block, right? Yeah. But this one struck a chord. I'm like, I have to, you know what I mean? And that's why when I reached out to her, I was like, you got to do something. You got to do something, because that was too good of a story. And it's interesting because it's a great thing we didn't play on the same team, because where he's supposed to throw it to you for that alley-oop, that would have been me shooting.
Shot it. I would have shot it.
And then that moment never happens. I would have the butterfly effect, everything. Who knows what would have happened after that. But no, it was a good moment. I'm glad that you guys were able to connect on it. I'm glad it happened. It was good. So
it was. That really was, Tone. I had a
Do you know, is there a video?
That's somewhere? The thing. He actually got a hold of my junior college coach, and he sent him, which is also interesting, Tone, because he got a hold of my junior college coach. That's how he got those shirts. It was a whole deal. Like, he got the shirts, got a hold of my junior college coach, and coach has all of our games, not just games of me. He's got a library of games. He has those on DVD, and he sent them a copy of that game specifically. He sent them a copy of that game.
Moment on tape.
Yes, he sent them a copy of that specifically.
Pete, if you're watching, Pete, you need to send it to me so that we can play it. I need to see this. And it's interesting because on that play, did you land it okay? Like, were you fine?
I was good. Yeah, I was good.
Any injuries?
It was actually a back-to-back play. It wasn't just I did it like we ran that play, and then like 2 plays later we ran it again. So it was one of those things to kind of christen that I was back, because I had just come back from injury. Like I said, I broke my foot in November, and I had been out of the lineup for like 6 weeks, and I came back earlier. Like I said, Tony, the game was on January the 18th. So it was right before my birthday. Like that was the week of my birthday. It was right before my birthday. I came back, and I was good, but it's slow going when you're coming back from a broken bone. And that was kind of the christening that, all right, I'm good. I'm straight.
So you were coming back from injury, yeah?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm.
I just let me just pretend there's music playing.
Oh boy, it's just one after the other, man. Like, what's going on?
Like
What?
this is now okay. He's back today. He doesn't look that good. Like it's still going. It
Yes.
seems like half of the damn league is hurt. It's still going, Chill.
Still going, Tone. It's
And you know
incredible.
that's not all of them.
No,
but-
it's not.
But what is going on with the injuries? Because I don't know. Am I just forgetting, or is this more than I've ever seen of named
100
players?
100%. And by the way, this is not knick-knack stuff. Like Jimmy
No.
Butler rolling his ankle, Aaron Gordon, Aaron Gordon with the calf injury, Kevin Durant with the calf injury, because we already seen that movie before. We know what that looks like with Kevin Durant with the calf injury. Scotty Barnes getting his face broken. Now, on some level, we've seen guys wear masks. So, I mean, Richard Hamilton wore a mask.
Sure.
But, getting your Audubon broken, I mean, that affects your vision. That affects your equilibrium. So, like, he had to chill out with that. Joel Embiid coming back from the knee injury. Paulo ripping his oblique muscle. What's going on with these guys? This isn't because of technology, because it sounds to me like these guys are taking care of themselves. They have the best care, right? They got the best trainers. They got the best facilities. Why are these guys breaking down like this? Jimmy Butler's going to be out for a month. Jimmy Butler 100% with that ankle injury. He's going to be out for a month. And from what I understand, Tone, the amount of games that these guys are missing, which would explain why, viewership is down. These guys aren't available as much. And when they do play, the quality of the game is completely different. I'm watching Philly and the Knicks to start. Joel Embiid, one, he's lumbering. Two, when they're getting up and down the floor, he's running right to the long ball line. That's the first place he's running. That's not conducive to what the game is and what people want to see. They don't want to see a big guy standing out at the long ball line just shooting long balls all night. And Dame is in protocol. He's in concussion protocol. Sure. All of this stuff is going on. Now, what happens in the future with this? That's why we had to come up with the 65 games. That's why, because a lot of this stuff, don't forget Kawhi Leonard is out too indefinitely.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard. We also missed.
That's almost like a given at this point, though.
Right. We also missed the kid that plays in New Orleans with the broken hand, DeJounte Murray. He's out of the lineup. There's plenty of people who
DeJounte Murray was in that. DeJounte Murray was in that.
Herb Jones wasn't in there. He's got the shoulder injury. So
I can't put everybody in.
Right, of course. But what I'm saying
some.
is that there's plenty of guys that are just beat up right now, and it's affecting the quality of the game, Tone. This is the first time.
Do you think if they were paid per game played, they would? Because look, legitimate injuries are legitimate injuries. Like you break an orbital bone, like that's not load management.
I had a broken face.
Yeah. Do you feel though, if they only got paid for the games that they played, the number of games that were missed would be significantly less?
Yes, I do think that. I think guys would. Here's the problem.
Guys have played through nagging injuries for years and years and years, and part of me says, is that why, if you look back, the majority, there's exceptions, but the majority of players didn't have as long careers as they have today. Whereas today, better technology, healthcare, vitamins, et cetera, and they don't, like, if they have a hangnail, they miss the game. They do. Now they do. And so, but is that extending their peaks, their primes, and their longevity? Is that maybe a good thing? Like, would you rather pick the player for 80 games a season for 12 seasons, or would you rather have them for 65 games a year for 20 seasons?
But then those 20, then those 65 games go down to 50. And then the quality of basketball goes the other way too. And with these guys being, to your point, when you talk about like hangnails and like a jam finger, well, Tone, I can't get my body acclimated to playing through injury if I never play through injury. If I'm always, when something breaks down or when something hurts, I sit down. So when I get an ankle injury, like in your turn, in your words, day to day used to be, even
Yeah.
though he never, even though he never had this issue when he was in New Orleans, but now he's in Los Angeles and he'll have an injury and everybody's gasping. Like, how long how long is he going to be out? If he stubs his toe or if he rolls his ankle, I've seen him roll his ankle and he's come back probably because of the nonsense that he's heard. But to your point, Tone, if you put it in these guys' contract that you only get paid on a game-to-game basis, I think that you would get guys playing more, but that's what we got the union for, because I feel like teams
Mhm.
would take more advantage of that and they would have guys playing when they shouldn't be playing. So it's kind of a give and take.
That's an interesting one. Like I said, and that's why I know it seems unfair to the people that are legitimately hurt, but
Mhm.
that's why I've always said I feel that they should only get paid for the games that they were played because it's so much money. It's
Yes, it
so
is.
much money. And if you're really hurt, you'll be like, look, I'm really hurt. I'm going to miss. Like, we're not that far away from $82 million a year, right? We're already at 60,
I
right? There's
think
people,
Anthony Davis's last year of his deal is $70 million.
there you go. So we're not that far away from someone making $1 million a game.
Mhm.
Just think about that. They're going to get paid $1 million per game.
Damn.
And now when you're sitting there and you're thinking, I don't feel great. Maybe I'm not going to play tonight. That's $1 million.
That's left on the table because I
Now,
can't come to
if
work.
I'm legit, I got a broken leg. I'm sorry, I can't. Like, now
I
there
can't go.
there needs to be insurance and stuff for legit like a broken leg.
Right.
But I'm sitting there going, yeah, I got a hangnail.
Mhm.
It's the middle of January in Detroit or Minnesota. Okay, maybe no, Minnesota's good now. Let me use Detroit. It's Detroit,
Or
middle of
Portland
January.
or
Yeah,
Utah.
no. I'm using Detroit for a reason, or
Mhm.
Toronto, right? This team's in last place. It's minus 20 degrees. They're a last place team. I don't feel great. Why am I playing that game? However,
Because
if I got 500,000, 750,000, $1 million on the line, I'm gonna go play.
I'm playing.
I'm gonna go play.
Mhm.
So
I'm playing.
and that's all I mean is, look, for everybody that says athletes get paid way too much, you wouldn't turn it down. Athletes get paid based on how much their companies make,
Right.
and what they can afford. So trust me, for every $100 million contract, there's an owner who just made $1 billion. So it's fine. That being
Right.
said, I'm not saying they should get paid less. Let's be very clear. What I'm
Right.
saying is they get paid to play. Therefore, they shouldn't get paid if they don't play. And just like any other business, there is sick days, there's long-term disability, there's that.
Yep. There's
Maybe
PTO, there's time off, which you
Yeah.
have that. It's not like the job. It's not like a job where I'm working every night. There's days where I have off. So we played tonight and I played. Okay, today is Tuesday. We don't play again till Friday, right? We don't play again till Friday. We might not have practice tomorrow. I may have the day off.
sure.
Or I may come into the arena, or I may come to the facility to get some treatment. But then I got practice on Thursday, and then we play Friday, and then we play Saturday. But then we don't play again till Tuesday, right? Or we don't play again till Monday. So there's days in between where I got practice, which they don't do nearly as much. I feel like we're living in a time, Tone, where it's work harder. I mean, it's work smarter, not harder, and you can manipulate the system. And a lot of these people are doing that. And I think that it's affecting, I think it's affecting the bottom line of what the NBA is. And they've already signed a new CBA, but I feel like it's affecting what the bottom line is, because in order for us to, monetize this thing consistently, we have to have the product on the floor. And if the
Right.
product isn't on the floor, these sponsors, these television deals, they're going to start to wane because, people are turning the channel. People don't care. And I also want you to couple that too, Tone, with we don't have a legitimate face of the league like we did in the past. We don't have no, I don't think we have a standard like we had in the past. Like we don't have James. We don't have Jordan. Like we don't have
James, but
we don't have that James.
We don't have that James. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have that James. We don't have Jordan. We don't have Barkley, right? We don't have these guys available who we saw on the regular. Tone, you saw David Robinson every night he was supposed to be playing. You saw Barkley. You saw Jordan, right? You saw Olajuwon when these guys were available.
Kobe.
You saw Bryant. You saw Shaq as much as possible. So it wasn't difficult to sell the product because these guys were available. It's difficult now to sell the product because what the game has turned into. That's number one. And number two, how available these guys are. What am I selling? What am I buying this for if half these guys aren't available? Like that list you just showed me, Tom, what's that, about 12 guys?
Yeah, let me get, and I'm going to show the list again, and I want you to tell me who, I'm going to show you the list again, and of these guys, who's the one that the team misses the most?
Him. That's a big deal. No. Him. No. Him too. Him also. No. He's a big deal. He's also a big deal. He's also a big deal too. Maybe him. No. Of the guys that you just said, what's that, Tone? I counted like 13 guys.
Yeah. You might have missed the first one. Who was the first one?
Paulo.
No, Paulo's not the first one.
Ja, I'm sorry. Ja was the first one. That was the first one I saw was Paulo. I'm sorry. But
Ja, Paulo 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
16 guys.
16
guys. 17 guys.
Jesus. And we already mentioned other guys.
Right, like Herb Jones. That's not in the lineup. Like Damian Lillard is in concussion protocol.
We're in a league that has, 450 people?
Yep, 450 guys.
And there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 10% of them are hurt. And we already know there's probably 10% of them that stink. Let's just be honest. Let's be honest. No, let's be honest. A 15-man roster, right? Let me just do real quick math. You got 15 players on each team times 30 teams is 450. Okay. We know that 25 of them are injured. Okay. So, let me repeat it. 3 guys. So, man, 15, 14, and 13.
Mm-hmm.
Find me a team that player 13, 14, and 15 aren't, like, you wouldn't miss them if they were gone. That you could name them. So what is that? That's 30. 30 times 30 is 90.
Right.
So there's 90 players.
100.
There's 90 players. Sorry, not 30 times 30, 3 times 30. Right. There's 90 players. Call it 100. Sure. So of the 350 players that are man 12, which don't even play in the playoffs. So of the 350, you've got 20% of them hurt.
1 out of 5 guys. 1 out of 5. One out of 5 of those guys are hurt.
1 out of 5. And let's be honest. There's probably 10 guys per team that actually get minutes. I'm not talking about the guy who plays 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
No, like significant minutes where you play.
10 or more minutes. So you got 300 guys.
Right.
And you got 50 of them that are injured.
But if I look at the landscape of where the league is, right, and how beat up these guys are, all of these guys, all of these guys, Tone, are actually beat up. If you think about how injured, because there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. If I'm hurt,
I can't play. If I'm injured, I can go. Right? I got a bruised rib. That's an injury.
Yeah.
I think it's flipped around. If I'm injured, I can't play. But if I'm hurt, I can go. With that being said, Tone, how many of these guys, right? How many of these guys are banged up but still go? Because there's plenty of them who are banged up.
Good for them, because I just did more math in my head. There's 150 starters.
Right.
And all those guys were starters. So 20, 30 starters. That's significant. So this is the problem. Now, here's where I get on my soapbox.
Yep.
Is the problem that they're playing too much basketball growing up, which I've told you many, many, many times. This whole AAU circuit. Well, because it's true. They're playing 80, 90 games in a year. And I did a little investigating, and I'm not going to name the youth team because it wouldn't be fair to them. But I looked into some youth teams, and as you know, I'm a youth coach. So I have access to a lot of info.
Right.
And there's teams, lots of teams that play more games than they have practices.
Wow.
And there's a different intensity in games, right? So you got all these games. They're only trying to win. I'm telling you right now, because the parents, I had a conversation with a parent. Their kid wanted to play elite. I said, your kid's not an elite player, but they made this, kind of elite team. And I said, yeah, it's a brand new elite team. They're going to stink. They're going to get destroyed by all the other elite teams. Yeah, but it's better competition. So you want to be a bottom tier elite player on a bottom tier elite team playing high tier elite players and losing games just so you could say your son's elite, where all they care about is winning games. They don't care about anything else, nor should they. Instead of putting them down a level and letting them play and develop and learn how to be a player at 11 years old. And they said, yep. I said, okay. But that's the problem. So all they want to do is win. They're not developing. They're not working their skills. They're getting micro fractures all over, jumping because now they're playing all year round, 100 games a year. And by the time they get to 22, 23, 24, 25, 30, their bodies are done. And I think that's a huge, because when you look at the guys like, and look, I know I'm using a physical specimen when I say this, Nolan Ryan. How come Nolan Ryan pitched so many complete games? You know why? Because he rested in the offseason. He didn't play baseball all the time. And he was used to pitching 7, 8 innings all the time. Right? Whereas now they don't. So now it's like, nope, they don't get to play any other sports. Do you know why it's great to play other sports? Because you work other muscles. And I'll give you my own example. I was deep into playing, I was in good shape. And then I went and played baseball one day. I've never been so sore because it's a completely different usage of muscles and certain muscles that you don't use.
Sure.
And so this is just bringing it to a head that I'm telling you, there's too much emphasis put on the wrong things.
Let me ask you this though, Tone.
I'm see it.
What's the difference between, in terms of circuits or elite teams, what's the difference between that and us playing basketball every day after school when we were growing up? Every day. Because the thing is, they're still doing that too. So in addition to being on this elite team, they're also still playing basketball every day.
Go drive by any court. What are they doing when they're home? They're out in their driveways still shooting, or they're at the park locally, whatever, all the time. They're still doing all that extracurricular, right? Because of the love of the game. But then I know a kid who is 13 years old and plays on 4, I probably shouldn't say this, on 4 different rep teams.
Yeah.
I have a kid on my team that plays on 2 different rep teams. And it's just, and again, I go back to you saw the picture. I showed you that 6'3". He wasn't 11 years old, by the way. However, whatever. 6'3", 11-year-old we played against, 0 skill, could not dribble, could not shoot. But what did they do? They wanted to win. Hey, go stand here on the low block. Wait till the shot goes up. Take a step in, catch it over everybody that you're 1.5 feet taller than, and just lay it back up again. What a disservice. What a disservice for that child who whether he's 11, 12, probably 13. Because as he gets, you're going to ask him to do stuff. He's like, I don't know how, right? Like, all because a coach's ego wanted to win games with 11-year-olds. Right? We had a ref on here and you saw the kid flopping. You see the parents getting into fights.
Right.
We've lost our minds. We're focused on the wrong things. And I know you're like, what does this have to do with the price of tea in China?
No, I know where you're going with this. Yeah,
right?
This is what ultimately happens when you're doing all of this. This is what when I'm 28, when I'm 29, it's like having a car. Well, when you bought that car, every day you run in that car thousands of miles every day, like
every
no
day.
days off, every day. Well, and then you're surprised
in
it
5 years.
Yeah, you're surprised 5 years later that the car breaks down when even though it was brand new. But you brought up an interesting point, Tone, when you talk about, okay, in addition to every day after school, before basketball season, I was playing every day after school. I was on the court every day, but I didn't think about the idea that, so in addition to me every day after school, I was on the court. I also had AAU practice. I didn't even think about that because that wasn't going on when I was growing up. You had pickup games. We played at the court, and then basketball season. We had open gym every day after school.
Sure.
And then basketball season started, and then we got into that. And then basketball season, we had practice every day, and then we had games. And then basketball season was over. Then we got right back into what we were into before the season started, where we were right back into playing pickup and being on the court every day. So I'm thinking to myself, I did break my foot at 18 years old. Would that be because I was playing too much, or it was just something that was?
But I think there's another piece to it, right? When you say, like, you practiced every day, and this is why I brought up the more games than practices. In practice, you did a lot of things that weren't, not to say not basketball, but you did conditioning things. I guarantee you, right? You had, they had you wind sprints, and you were in your defensive stance, probably up against a wall or off a wall or whatever. Like, there was a lot of things that were done that you might not have realized were for strength and conditioning.
Right.
When all you're doing is playing, and let's be honest, you're not warming up properly before a game. You're probably not at that age. You're not thinking, I don't need to stretch.
No stretching.
None of that. You're going up. You're running. You're running a few. If you just watch. When I say kids warm up for a game, right? It's a bunch of layup lines, a bunch of lazy shots, and then right into an intense game. Your body's not ready for it. And again, it's not the one time. It's do that repetitively. Just think about it. If you play 100 games, and they probably play more, but let's say you play 100 games. That's 1/3 of the year you're playing a game. We did not play 100 games. So you add in that 100 games. Now add in, like you said, every lunch hour, before school, after school, add in practices. Like, let's be honest. If you play 100 games, you should probably have 200 practices at least.
We're not just whenever we're not playing, we're practicing.
You should. So if you go 200 practices and 100 games, now I get it, a lot of the games are on the same day, but also not a good thing. But if you go 200 practices, 100 games, that's basketball every single day at a high intense level. And then add in the after school. Again, your car is a great analogy. Take your car, drive your car from Miami to Orlando every single day, and tell me how long that car lasts. No matter how good. Now, that's assuming you maintain it properly. But let's be honest. How many? And when I say kids, I'm talking anywhere from 10 to 20. When I say a kid, tell me how many of them are sleeping right, eating right, have a nutritionist, a dietitian, a trainer, this, that.
99% of them do not.
A masseuse, right?
Yeah.
Right?
99% of them don't.
I heard a story yesterday, and it said LeBron James sleeps. Part of the reason why he has such incredible longevity, he sleeps 10 to 12 hours a day and has a 2-hour nap. That's 12 to 14 hours a day he's sleeping. He's like a lion. 12 to 14 hours a day he's sleeping. So guess what? His body's given time to recover. Guess what else? Guess what else? I guarantee you he ain't putting anything. Occasionally
he's not eating nonsense.
He's not eating nonsense, right? Like, I guarantee you, I know this guy got in trouble for steroids, but Ben Johnson, remember Ben Johnson, the sprinter, Seoul Olympics, 1989, even with steroids to run whatever he ran, 789, still incredible. I don't care with or without steroids, but that's a whole nother conversation. I know so he had a trainer, and then he had like a his physiotherapist.
Right.
And he told me Ben got massages before every practice, after every practice, like deep tissue, and then slept. And that's a sprinter who works for 9 seconds
Right.
in a competition. But he had, that's what your body needs to recover. Tell me a kid that isn't doing all that basketball we just said, and then up until 2 a.m. playing Fortnite, gets 2 hours of sleep, has to get school in the morning. Your body can't recover. And I'm sorry that I'm on a soapbox here, guys, and you're asking them to do this as their body is changing and growing.
Developing. I'm getting taller. I'm filling out more.
You get growing pains when you're doing nothing. Imagine growing pains while you're doing all that. It's just so why are they breaking down at 30? I wonder.
Yeah, that would have a lot to do with it. Now, with that, how do we remedy this? Well,
we can't.
And the reason why we can't, Tone, is because
you can't go back. You can't go backwards.
Nope, it's too late now. You can't. Yeah. And where technology is, right? Where technology is today, I would think that guys would be in better shape and would be taking better care of their bodies. But to your point, when you're running like that, when you're constantly in motion like that, 99% of these, Tony, when I was 15 years old, I thought I was going to be 15 forever. I didn't know. I'm not thinking that, I'm going to break bones and
when you rolled your ankle at 15, it just like a rubber band popped right back and you
bounced right back. And I was fine because I actually did that. To be honest with you, Tone, at 16 years old, I rolled my ankle and I was fine. Okay, let's get back to work. Not thinking that, when you're older, this stuff is going to come back to bite you. And not older like when I'm 50. No, at 16, when you're 25, it's not going to be the same as when you're 16.
And by the time they realize to take this serious, it's too late. And look, there's the exceptions. Like LeBron, I think, knew very early, I need to take care of my body, right? Sand City Sports, right? Shout out. LeBron spends $1 million on his body annually. Mm-hmm. Who else is doing that?
Just him.
Who else is doing that? Nobody. Right? And just think about it. And he's still missing time.
Right.
He's paying $1 million a year. He's doing all the right things and he's still missing time. So now imagine someone who's arrogant enough to think I don't have to do that or doesn't have the money or the resources to do that.
Like Anthony Edwards is a prime example. Anthony Edwards is still eating pizza and he's still 22, 23 years old thinking that I'm going to be like this forever. When I'm watching the documentary and I'm watching James show up to the arena 3 hours before the game and they're, concentrating on his body, getting his wheels turning and getting him prepared. And then afterwards, to your point, doing the same thing, giving him massages, rubbing him down, stretching him to make sure, and then getting sleep. I didn't realize how important sleep was. I really didn't. I always thought that, I'm good with about 5 hours of sleep, not realizing that how much better do you feel, when I got 8, 9 hours of sleep? How much better do I feel when I'm doing that? Now, that doesn't work for everybody.
No, listen, I always loved sleep. I always felt great after a good night, after a long sleep. And then when you have kids, your sleep becomes secondary. And that's when I started to feel old, right? Is when I stopped getting as much sleep. And that's, I'm not blaming. I love my kids. I love my kids, but and I will give up sleep and 10 years off, 20 years off my life to make them feel better. But at the same time, I for the first time in my life, I've started like with a regular physiotherapist because I have tendonitis, arthritis, and a torn rotator cuff. And all that shoulder stuff was shooting up my head and giving me headaches. I was having headaches. You remember, there were days where I was like, okay, we're gonna do the show. And you're like, what's wrong, Tony? I'm like, no, I'm good. And you're like, why can't you open your eyes? I got a mic. Like,
because I can't see. That's why, because I'm in
but it's okay. I don't need to see. My mouth can still move. But I'm telling you, the difference that I feel now, just from that pain being relieved, shout out to Aurora Sports Medicine. It's night and day. I feel not only that, I still play. I go out and play, and they're like, "Dude, like you found like a fountain of youth. Like you're bouncing all over the place. You're playing defense. You're making steals. I didn't even do that when I was 20." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just telling you, it's because once the pain is lifted from wherever that pain is lifted from,
Yep.
right? Like you get a little bit more bounce to yourself." And I want to address this really quickly. Ralph Wiggum, which I think is the best name if you watch The Simpsons, as a coach, do you change your approach on training the teams? Yeah, 100%. So I personally have reduced the amount of games. Like people call us to play in tournaments, exhibition games all the time. I say no. And I'm like, if I need to have at least 2, I prefer 3 practices, like a 3-to-1 ratio. I'll live with 2-to-1 practices to games. And in those practices, it is strength and conditioning, rest, skill drill, rest, another skill, rest, a Blackboard session. Actually, I should mention I do a video session before we watch the previous game and we break down game film, which for 11-year-olds, they have a notebook to take notes, and it's really cool, right? It's all the stuff I did in university, and then we scrimmage. That's kind of the breakdown, so that it's broken up, and you can see the improvement in their skill.
Now, some people, Tone, they'll hear that. Some people will hear that and call you soft. This is what's wrong with this generation. You're coddling these kids. But why do I have to contribute to the demise? Because
how am I? But I will say this: how am I coddling them? Because they run more than any other team I see. They do more. They do more like push-ups, sit-ups, squats, burpees. They do more than any other team I see. They do all of that more. And if they're if they're not paying attention, if they're not focused, they do sprints. We do sevens. We do all that stuff. But it is in a controlled environment and in a way that it's not like, again, I think have 2-a-days. A 2-a-day is better than a game from a health perspective. It actually is. So
I actually was a part of that, to be honest with you, Tone. And you got to get your body acclimated to be a part of 2-a-days where we have practice. And when I was in college, like we had practice at 6 a.m. Then we came back at 3:30 and went again. I mean, this was before the season started. We had that was going on. That wasn't something that, we didn't do. We were doing that on the regular. 6 a.m.
We had to run a mile at 6 a.m. with 3 bricks. You hold 2 bricks here and 1 in the middle. And if the middle brick falls, you have to start over. And so we would run our mile holding our bricks, finish the mile, puke, go brush your teeth, eat some breakfast, get to class, come back, run till you puked, right? I'm not saying that's good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's better on your joints and your knees and your everything else. As sad as that sounds, than going out and playing 100 and 120. Like, talk to these kids, ask them how many games do they play. It's insane. It's a lot.
It sounds nuts, Tone. Like I said, I feel like the youth basketball system is way different today than what it was, because I feel like these kids are training not to be better basketball players, but they training to get to the NBA. Like that's not what the premise is here. No, I want to be a better ball player. Like, again, and I don't want to sound like,
I know we sound like a couple of old guys. Get off my lawn.
Get off my. I don't want to sound like this, but when I was growing up, the idea, I want to play college basketball. I wasn't thinking about the NBA when I was 12. I wasn't thinking about the NBA when I was in the 8th grade. I wanted to play on TV, on ESPN, for Syracuse, for St. John's. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to college. But in order to do that, I had to improve my game to get to high school. So I wasn't thinking about the NBA. That was a grown-up thing. I wasn't thinking about that. No,
and you know this, and I, when I say this, everyone always gives me like this side eye, but it's true. So unless you're 7 foot or taller, so let's eliminate that, because 1 in 10 7+ footers make it to the NBA. As nuts as that is, so everybody else, you have better odds of being struck by lightning twice. Twice.
Not once.
Oh, it doesn't
Not
work on
once.
this little screen. Oh, not once. Yes. Be struck by lightning twice. Your odds are better of getting struck by lightning twice than making the NBA. Like, let's and meanwhile, call yourself an electrician. Good luck finding one. Good luck. Good luck. But anyways, so injuries are becoming a huge factor. But are the injuries? So are the here's the question of the day. Because I told you this last week, and you tried to fight me on it, and I'm correct, and you are incorrect. Kim Jong-un, Chill, and I both played overseas. You played in Greece and somewhere, didn't you?
I played in Ireland and in
Ireland.
Belgium. Mhm.
Ireland and Belgium. I only played in Greece because I had a hookup. I wasn't that good. Here we go. So all these injuries, are they the reason that there's only 2 teams in the East? When I told you this was the worst I've ever seen a conference start, only 2 teams above 500.
Yep.
In
Now,
comparison, the West has 11 teams 500 and above.
well, the Pacers, if the season ended today, the Pacers got the 3rd seed.
Yes.
If the season ended today, Dallas got the same record as Indiana, and they're out the playoffs.
The Pacers would be 11th in the West.
Yeah, they out the playoffs.
They are third. They are
Mhm.
third in the East.
Now, Tone, in my defense, since we're going to talk about this, let's put some logistics together. Number one, this Eastern Conference, is it realistic for me to think, considering Cleveland started 12-0, I think the Celtics are going to win 65 to 70 games this year. So can I have 2 teams in the East win 65 games or 60 plus games?
Of
Is
course.
that realistic for me to think? That
Of course. They've had that.
that's
We've had that before.
That's number one. Number two, just so you know, Tone, Indiana, of their 5 losses, 4 of their 5 losses are against East teams.
Of course.
That Orlando team, I think 4 of their 6 losses or 4 of their 5 losses are against teams in the East. A lot of these teams in the East, 80% of their, I think that Miami is the only one. 3 of their 6 losses are against Western Conference teams. The other are against East teams.
But the West is also winning like 2.5. Like there's like 35 to 10 or 30 to whatever. Green is 35 to 50. The West is destroying the East in those head-to-head. They are lucky they don't have to play the West more.
I think the Eastern Conference is 15 and like 35 against the Western Conference.
There you go.
Something like that. Yeah,
15 and 35. They can't.
Yeah,
so
something like that.
They gotta eliminate the conferences. I'm sorry.
Now, wait a minute.
Indiana. I'm sorry, Indiana. If Indiana would be 11th in the West, they shouldn't be in the playoffs. How do they get a home series? And Dallas, same record, doesn't get to play in the playoffs.
But here's the thing, though, Tone. All right, I get
Now,
the. I get
will
the
it
whole,
stick? Will it stick? I'm assuming if that we're
That's
saying
where I was going with this, Tone. Like, did I think that Milwaukee would be at the bottom of the East? Did I think they would be the worst team in the Eastern Conference? No. Did I think Philly would be this bad? You did say that you thought Milwaukee was going to be bad. You did say that they were going to be bad. I did not have Milwaukee as the worst team in the Eastern Conference. I didn't. I did not have Philly being this bad. I did not have the Miami Heat being this bad. I didn't. I didn't have Orlando with Paolo having to your point when we were talking about injuries, he's got a torn oblique muscle, which kept him out for almost a month.
Yeah.
It throws a monkey wrench in what these guys are doing. A monkey wrench in it. Joel Embiid, he just gets back in the lineup. It's only 3 weeks into the season. He's missed 3 weeks. He's missed 3 weeks of the season so far. Right?
Where's his number 2?
He just got it. He's been on the floor. He eventually, but then Tyrese Maxey is now out the lineup.
Right.
So it's a give and take with these guys. I thought that the Eastern Conference would be a lot better. When we talk about both we talk about both Boston and Cleveland winning 60 plus games. What it reminds me of, and you're a football guy, Tony, it reminds me of the AFC North, which is the black and blue division. When Pittsburgh was beating up on Baltimore, who was beating up on Cleveland, who was beating up on Pittsburgh. And it was one of those divisions where, Cleveland ended up being 5-11, but that's because Pittsburgh was beating up on them, and Pittsburgh ended up being 9-7. That's because Baltimore was beating up on them, and Baltimore ended up being 11-5 because they were losing to Cleveland, and everybody was getting roughed up in that division. I feel like that's what's going on with the East. Don't get me wrong. I do understand that head to head with the West, they are getting roughed up. That's also true. But a lot of their woes, I mean, you only play the East twice. I mean, you only play the Western Conference twice. A lot of their woes are coming from them dealing with what's going on in the East. A lot of their woes are coming are predicated on them or the Knicks, for example. I mean, the Knicks, they lose to Indiana, they lose to Orlando. I mean, these are the teams that's beating up on them. Indiana, they beat Boston, but then they lose to Detroit, and they a lot of these teams that are, and since we're on the subject of Detroit, I'll get to Detroit in a second. A lot of these teams in the East that are getting beat up, they're getting beat up by each other. You know, Tone, you put that you put the standings up there. You know, if the season ended today, Detroit is in a play-in tournament and they're 3 games under 500. They're in a play-in tournament,
and they don't belong there. That's what I'm sorry. If you're under 500, you shouldn't be in the playoffs. Shouldn't be in the playoffs. And this goes back. This ain't just something new, right? Everyone brings up that 30-52 Bulls team. They shouldn't have been in the playoffs.
They should not have been in the playoffs.
I don't care if you're the 8th seed. Back then, there was only 9 teams in the East. They should only had 6 max, or 10 teams, whatever it was. 6 teams make it. Oh, hold on. We have guests.
Oh boy.
Hello,
dear.
Hey.
Hello, dear. How are you?
Good.
Say hello to
What's
Uncle
going
Chill. Say hello to Uncle Chill.
I did say hi.
How's school going?
How's school going?
Good.
Good. How's
Okay.
dance going?
How's dance?
That's good news. Good. That's good news. Good to see
You're
you there.
very talkative. Okay, good night.
Go to bed.
Good
Go
night.
to bed. Mm-hmm.
We
Go to
showed
bed.
your highlights. I showed him your highlights.
Hey, do you pass? Do we got to call the fun police on you? Do you pass? Yes or no? Because I was getting.
He passes and plays
Okay,
defense.
good. Unlike your father, because your father does not pass. Let's make sure we clear on that. No, he doesn't. So, because I've seen the defense.
10 assists a game.
I average
Yeah.
triple-double.
Oh, you average a triple-double? Get out of here, Jokic.
I average 10 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, 5 steals, and 1 block.
5
was a pretty good
steals.
stats, brother.
Man.
All right, go to bed and keep that dream alive.
Go to bed. Go to bed. Love you,
Love
kid.
you.
Yeah. Go to bed.
I averaged
10, 10, and 10. Damn, Tone, that's a max player right there. We might have to get him. He gonna get an extension. Yes,
Fingers crossed. That's my retirement plan.
that's a max player right there. Holy shit!
You know, it's funny because at that age, all the kids worry about is how many points did I score.
Yeah,
But he is like I said, he is something I've never been. He is a lockdown defender. Like he gets in there. Like he's this, he plays up, right? He plays up 2 years, and he's in there battling for rebounds, diving for loose balls. He's crazy. He gets that from his mom. That ain't
I was
from
about
me.
to say, because we know he ain't defending. We know he ain't passing. He ain't getting that from dad.
Yeah, no, he's a willing passer. Yeah, so it's good for him. And again, I'm realistic. I'm not telling him he's going to the NBA. I'm telling him, you keep up your baseball, you keep up your basketball. Let's see if we can get a school to pay at least some of your college tuition, so we can get
all of it.
Or
all of it.
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you.
Don't forget, I got twins, so they're both gonna be going at the same time.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, I guarantee you, she's gonna get one for dance. She's phenomenal.
I'm sure of it, Tom. I'm sure. Yeah. I think the good thing though for what you're doing is recognizing that, you're not living vicariously through your kids, but two, recognizing that, keeping them in activities is going to make them better people. When I was in school and I was doing this sort of stuff, I knew that my mother didn't have $60,000 to send me to college. So if I was going to go to school, I had to go free. Yeah. I knew that for a fact. If I'm going to go to school, I got to go for free.
I was the exact same way, 100%.
So I got to work on whatever this is that I'm doing. And okay, I got to get it figured out. With your children, which is kind of ironic considering, my dad's doing well, but I'm not just living off that. I'm actually working on my craft. Shorty is working on her craft where, I'm going to be really good at this and I could possibly get a scholarship to college. I love that. I think that's
Oh yeah,
great.
listen, the one thing I will, and I give her a lot of credit, but Mrs. Fluent is very real. As you know, you've spoken with her, and
I
she
have.
she just lays it out. She's like, "Look, this is what you need to do, and these are the things that are important." And we were both kind of brought up the same kind of way, poor, and had to work for things. And it's like
Sure.
we're not going to let you have it easy.
No.
Look, they get a ton of stuff that we never got, but at the same
Which is
time,
the idea. Which is the idea.
but she has this philosophy, and when she said it to me at first, I'm like, "You're nuts." And then the more I thought about it, I was like, as harsh as it sounds, it's real like smart. She's like, pay for the activities now or pay for their therapy later.
Right.
And I was
Right.
like, she might be onto something here. What's going on in the game? I see you looking. Is there anything?
Yeah, Jalen Brunson just went to the back.
No.
Yes. Jalen Brunson just went to the back, Tone. The Knicks are up by 1, and we're in the middle of the third. Mm-hmm. Jalen Brunson just went to the back. Yes, it's just one thing after the other.
This is
One
gonna
thing
be
after the other.
this is gonna be the lost season.
It might be.
Oh, today's I didn't realize
The tournament started today. Yes, sir.
Oh, in-season tournament. Oh, okay. How do you feel about the Emirates, it being the Emirates Cup?
I like it. Sponsorship is great. I do. I like it. Sponsorship is great. It's just, I think that a lot of these, I think that the NBA doesn't realize that, there might be some people that are, patting them on the back, but it's really brushing off so they can kick them in a little bit because we're going to take
They want a league. They're offering,
Yes.
there's contracts being offered. Like, it's very much like the Live Golf tournament, right? They're going to offer a ton of money to steal some players, and it might be the reverse of what happened, with the ABA. They might be in trouble because not only do they sponsor the in-season tournament, and now it's the Emirates in-season tournament. Did you see who? This has nothing to do with what I'm saying, but it's more for the picture. But we can talk about this too. But just check out this logo if you haven't seen it already. That's going to cause a lot of questions right here, right on the refs, right there on the refs.
Oh, I have not seen this.
That now the Knicks are publishing their referee stats in games. I think that's actually pretty cool. However, I don't know.
Tone, because again, with Emirates being a sponsor, sure, me being a referee and having Emirates on my shirt, I mean, I am a part of the NBA. So, is there a conflict of interest? Is that what I'm worried about?
Are you not? With all the question marks around everything, like even in here,
right?
In here, I want to go back to in the chat. I'm sure it is here somewhere. Someone said, like, look, I love my conspiracies. However, there's already people saying, "What do you guys talk about? This is all fixed anyways. It's all scripted anyways." So you've got people already saying this. And look at it.
He rolled his ankle. That's what happened.
He rolled his ankle. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he rolled his ankle.
They already believe that this is a joke.
It just, and again, Tone, I'm a conspiracy.
NBA lies about pay. It's also there it is. Yeah, NBA lies about, and it's obviously scripted.
I don't believe that it's scripted, but I mean, I'm just trying to make sense of the whole Emirates thing. I mean, sure, Emirates is a sponsor. Emirates is sponsoring the tournament. What's going on? What's going on overseas where they're offering these huge contracts. Nobody's gone yet, Tone. Let's make sure we remember that part. It's not like the dominoes have already fallen. No, I think that we may have a situation where that might be part of the deal. Okay, Tone, you work for you're a part of the Emirates empire, and you want to sponsor the Emirates Cup in the NBA. In the process of you sponsoring the Emirates Cup, this isn't a back door for you to come in and steal some of my players. That may be in the it's not though. That may be in the contract. We might have written that in the contract where you cannot interfere with any of our players. This isn't that kind of party. Off the strength that it's just bad for business when you do that. It's terrible for business when you do that. So I am a fan of conspiracy theories on the one hand, but on the other hand, I'm thinking to myself, Tone, nah.
All right. So let's get into our NBA. I got a list of some headlines. So let's get into them. I didn't realize how long that was. Nikola Jokic is leading the NBA. Leading the NBA in rebounds, leading the NBA in assists, and averaging nearly 29 points, so nearly 30 points per game. I think that's top 5 in points per game. I believe he leads in every single advanced stat. He's going to, I believe, break his own record for PER this season.
Mm-hmm.
Is he on his way to his 4th MVP? Is it his 4th? He's had 3 in the last 4 years, yeah?
It'll be 4 and 5 years, which is, the same thing we saw from James. It'll be 4 and 5 years that we've seen this. But I think it's incredible, Tone, that this is what he has to do to get it. Now,
if he was doing this any other year, it'd be like it's a lock, and it's like he might win.
This is what he has to do to get it. Tone, remember when he won the league MVP in 21? When he won the league MVP in 21. When Denver finished 3rd, that was the year that Jamal Murray tore up his knee, right? When he won the league MVP that year, Tony went 26, 11, and 8. He wouldn't sniff the league MVP if he was doing that this year. He wouldn't sniff it. It wouldn't be close. And then the next year, when he won it again, he went 27, 14, and 8. He wouldn't sniff it again. But and you and me go back and forth with this all the time when we talk about voter fatigue, and they're still voting for the guy, right? They're still voting for the guy.
These numbers, they have to.
Right. They're still voting for the guy. That's not the problem. The problem is once you do it at 26, I'm 26 and 11 and 7, and then that 26, 11 and 7 turns into 27, 14 and 8. And he basically had this in 22, Tone. He basically had the same season that Jabal had in 75, 76, where he led the NBA in just everything, in PR, in offensive win shares, overall win share. He basically had the same season that Jabal had, where you give him that. And then in 23, when he won it, he had the same numbers, where he went 26, 12, and 9. Here's the thing, Tone. That's now the standard. So if he goes 26, 12, and 8, that's who Joker is. He has to be 30, 14. Because remember, Tone, last season, to start out the season, he had the exact same numbers that he has right now. He was 29-7, 13-7, and he's averaging 4 more assists this year than he did last year. But this is what it's going to take in order for him to win the league MVP. Because don't think for 1 second, if he doesn't stay at this, if that 29 or if that 30 and 14 goes down to 26 and 11 or 26 and 12, that he's winning the league MVP, it's not happening. Nope, it is not happening.
Oh, you don't think so?
No, it's not happening. Because the reason why it's not happening, Tone, is because that's the standard for him. He's got to do more. Tone, do you remember when Charles Barkley won the league MVP in 93? I mean, don't get me wrong. Phoenix had the best record in the league. Barkley led them in scoring, led them in rebounding. I think he was second on the team in assists. Tone, Jordan averaged 32 a game that year, almost 33 a game that year. And I think he came in 3rd or something like that.
That was going to be the question I was going to ask you. Does his team record, if he keeps what he's doing now?
Yep.
Okay, forget. Yeah, if he keeps doing what he's doing right now, there's no drop off.
Yep.
Does his team record matter?
Yes, it does. And let me tell you why it matters, Tone. Because I think the Boston Celtics are going to win 65 to 70 games. If the Boston Celtics win 65 to 70 games, and Jason Tatum, who right now is almost 31, 8-5, if they win 68 games and Jason Tatum is 31, 8-5, I dare you to keep the league MVP away from him. I dare you.
Mm.
I dare you to keep it away from him. As much as Joker is doing what he's doing, and don't get me wrong, and please don't get me wrong.
Because I want to tie in this, right? Just I want to tie in along going with that 29.7, so 30 points, almost 14 rebounds, almost 12 assists. He's also averaging almost 2 steals and a block.
How about that?
1.7 steals and 1 block a game.
Right.
Like he's doing everything.
Correct. 100% he's doing everything. And
so you think if Boston wins 70 games, it goes to Tatum?
Yes, I do.
Ah,
I would be, and here's why I think that, Tone. When I in the 2016 season, I saw the Golden State Warriors win 73 games, and Steph Curry had one of the most. I think he had the best offensive season in NBA history. Nobody talks about the fact that the San Antonio Spurs won 67 games that year. They won 67 games. Kawhi Leonard, he was the defensive player of the year that year. Averaged 20, I think he averaged 22 a game, 21 a game. He was almost 50, 40, 90 and he was averaging 4 threes. He didn't get a league MVP vote. And by the way, they finished second in the Western Conference. So if I'm looking at
he didn't get a first place vote.
He didn't get a first place vote. Steph Curry won league MVP unanimously that year. Unanimous. So with that being said, if the Boston Celtics win 68 games, 69 games this year, and Jason Tatum goes 38 or 31, 8-5, considering what the market is, it's Boston. They had just won the NBA championship. I would be really surprised if they kept the league MVP away from him. Even considering Joker won the league MVP, I believe, in 22, and I mean they were 6 that year. I can't see them giving it to him again.
They want to bring the MVP back to America.
I think that they do, Tone. I do.
It's been a minute.
Yes. Who's the last American League MVP? I think that's James Harden in 19.
Oh, James Harden. Yeah.
I think James Harden in 19 was the last American League MVP. Yep. Or 18. I'm sorry.
You know what?
Giannis won it in 19. I mean James Harden in 18.
18, but yeah, I forget James Harden because he shouldn't be winning anything.
That was almost 7 years ago, Tone.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's
7 years ago.
Jokic, Giannis, Embiid. That's been the last 6-7 years. So so from incredible performances to something I told you was going to happen, but somehow Doc isn't on the hot seat.
Nope. Tone, and
if they're going to fire the Bears offensive coordinator, which they have every right. Oh, just for the record, the Bears offensive coordinator gets fired. Do you know who are the only 2 people who've been fired this season?
In football.
Yeah, in football.
Who has been the coach of New Orleans? He's been fired.
The only offensive coordinators. There's been 2. So the Bears fired theirs today, and the Raiders fired theirs. Getsy or whatever his name is, who was the Bears offensive coordinator last year. So the 2 offensive coordinators who've been fired is the Bears offensive coordinator from this year and the Bears offensive coordinator from last year on his new team. So that tells you I stand by what I said. If the Bears had been smart enough to draft Patrick Mahomes, they would have ruined him.
They would have wrecked him.
They would have ruined him.
I'm on record saying that, Tone. They would have wrecked him.
So how are these guys, rightly so, by the way, being fired after they score 3 points against the Patriots after that start that we had to the season? But anyways, let me stay focused. And Doc is not even on the hot seat?
Nope. He's not
Doc's
on the
hot seat.
Here's the difference, Tone. The reason why is because how we got into this. Remember how we got into this thing, Tone?
Yeah, he had naked photos of the owner's wife.
No, that's not. It's not it.
The owner himself, one of the 2.
That's not going. No, he does not have film. He does not have letters. He does not have any document. No, he doesn't, Tone. However, he was a consultant last year.
Sure.
Right? He was a consultant this thing with Adrian Griffin started. It started off on the wrong foot from the word go. You already had Terry Stouts bowing out. With Terry Stouts bowing out, this thing was already going the other way. However, they were rolling early, but there was some dissension on the crew while they were rolling. But Doc was a consultant at the time. Like, he wasn't the guy, right? He wasn't the guy that was in the fold. He's the guy who was, quote unquote, consulting. So when Doc is consulting and Doc is saying, yo, just hang in there, they're at the top of the Eastern Conference. Even though they might have
saying hang in there.
Even
you know what he was saying? He was saying, you know what I could do with this team? The players don't like him. He's lost the locker room. You know what I could do with this team? That's what he was saying. That's what he was saying. Don't you dare tell me anything different. Because if he was saying, if the consultant that you have so much respect for is saying, no, hang in there. The players are coming around. Let me talk to them. Let me help smooth it over. Okay. Then it would have happened. And you know how I know this? Because my good friend Hugh Jackson was the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and they brought in an offensive coordinator against his will. I forget his name, Haley, I want to say. And they were like, oh, there's some back and forth. This is what's happening, blah, blah, blah. And the OC's like, well, let me talk to Baker. Let me smooth things over. And he went to Baker and completely stabbed him in the back and talked shit. And because that's what they do. Doc was not saying, let me help. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be all right. They were not holding hands singing Kumbaya. He was saying, imagine what I could do with this team. I've won an NBA championship. And they bought it. And they bought it. And they're still buying it. And if somehow, and I don't think they will because they stink, but if somehow the score's what? The score's 54-43 at halftime. Yep. If somehow the Raptors find a way to come back and the Raptors are 2-9 themselves. They stink too. If they somehow find a way to beat the Bucks tonight, they will be in last place in the East. And we already talked about the wins that they got aren't impressive.
But
they beat the last place Jazz.
And I'm trying to and I'm trying to.
And I told you, what's everybody going to say? They're going to beat these bottom feeders, the Jazz, the Raptors, the Pistons, and people are going to, wow, they're turning it around. No, they're not. No, they're not.
I want to get to the bottom of something really quickly because like I can't stand when people like say stuff and they can't verify it. Where are you getting your information that Todd Bowles is fired? Where are you getting that information from? And why? And why would
Todd Bowles is fired?
Yeah, where are you getting this information from?
I don't see that anywhere.
Me neither. Nowhere do I see that Todd Bowles is fired. Nowhere. Where are you getting this information from?
Who's the Woj bomb of the NFL Twitter?
Yeah. Where who? Because 100% when
I'll tell you who should be fired, Mike McCarthy, because I told you he never should have been hired.
Right.
How many times am I going to be right before people listen to me?
I don't know. Now, if you want to say that if you want to say that Todd Bowles should be fired,
sure.
Okay, sure. Is he gone? Until I actually see it, I ain't buying it. Nope. Not trying to hear that at all. But anyway, let's get back to Doc.
Doc is one of the worst coaches I've seen in NBA history. Who's the one you say is the worst? Quinn Buckner? No, who's you say?
Quinn Buckner. Yes, Quinn Buckner is the worst.
He's Quinn Buckner level.
Yeah, he was the Dallas Mavericks coach, and
he is Magic Johnson level bad coach.
They tried to run the triangle in Dallas, and it was a disaster. It was a 100%.
That did not work.
Yes, it was 100% a disaster. With that being said, Tone,
they're talking about making trades.
Right, and this is what Tone. This is what we have to. This is what we have to recognize.
Did not learn. Trade is what ruined them last year.
Oh, but Giannis was the one who said, "I'm not signing an extension." He said that. I'm not signing an extension. We need to. I need to know that we're going to be competing for NBA championships. They end up trading for Damian Lillard. With them trading for Damian Lillard. Okay, you guys are serious about making moves, not necessarily to fit, but you guys are serious about making moves. You move off of Adrian Griffin, which I didn't like the Adrian Griffin hire in the beginning. I thought he was the wrong guy. I didn't think he was the right guy. There was some dissension on this crew right from the beginning. Him and Bobby Portis did not get along. Him and Giannis. I'm not saying that him and Giannis didn't get along, but there was obviously some friction there with a new coach. Obviously, some friction there, Tone. Now, is Doc in the back going, listen, this isn't your guy. I'm your guy. But on the other side, telling Adrian Griffin, this is what you need to do? Because it sounds to me like, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. On the one hand,
that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. And he was telling him, yo, stay firm, earn their respect. Stay firm, earn their respect.
When in reality,
and then he was probably telling the players, you shouldn't take that. No one should talk to you that way. He's a rookie head coach. 100%.
But here's the question that needs to be answered, Tone. What part of management? We're in a space where we have to now see this through. And the reason why we got to see this through, because we already fired Adrian Griffin, who we signed to an extension, and then we signed Doc Rivers to a 4-year deal, 3-year deal for $42 million. So with us doing that, we look like a joke. Giannis signed this extension. I told you, Tone, this was a 3-year window. I told you that, Tone. This was a 3-year window. We're in year 2 of this 3-year window. Giannis is not out. He's not. Mm-mm.
You don't think you look like a joke when you're 2-8?
We're garbage.
And
yes,
your best players elbowing the finals MVP in the side of the head and then going, like he's Ralph Mouth from Happy Days. You don't think you look like a joke? Do you not think you look like a joke? You know where I'm going to go to next. I'm going to go look up. Let's see here. NBA team salaries.
They probably got the highest payroll in the league.
2025. Let's see here. Or actually, I guess I should look 24, 25. Not next year. My apologies. Bear with me.
Mm-hmm. They probably got the
fourth highest payroll in the league at $197 million.
Wow.
To be in last place.
That's where they are.
Phoenix is number 1. No problem. They're having a good year. Minnesota's number 2. No problem. They're title contenders. Boston is number 3. No problem. They're second in the East, only because one insane team that we're going to talk about in a second is undefeated, but they're also defending champs. Milwaukee, how'd they do last year? Remind me again.
They got bounced in round 1.
They got bounced in round 1, and now they have the second worst record. To a team, by the way, the only team that has a worse record than them is 22nd out of 30 teams in payroll. And
for the record, don't let that record fool you, ladies and gentlemen. It's a lot worse than that. Don't let that record
it's a lot worse than that.
And
let me just tell you, they're paying Giannis just under $49 million.
Right.
That goes to 57 next year, 62 the year after. Damian Lillard, 66 the year after. Damian Lillard is making just under 49 this season, 58.5 next season, and 63 million the year after. Chris Middleton is getting paid just under $32 million to sit at home, and will be on the 34 million next year.
This is the second year in a row, Tone, by the way, that's
140, let me see, 42. Yeah, $150 million. $150 million next year to Giannis, Dame, and Chris.
Do we scrap this thing? Place? No, we can't. No, Tone, we can't do that. We can't. No, there's no way we could do that. We can't do that. So something has to change. And what changes, yeah, right? What changes is
sorry. 10 players, expiring contracts. Okay. The 3
after this season.
6 after the season. 10 players on the hook next season already. 10 players. And we're including, the guys making minimums. 100. They're already on the hook for $184 million next year.
No. That's in the second apron, Tone.
So they can't even make moves.
That's in the second apron, man. We can't do that. So there's some things that we got to. Oh, this is a disaster, right from the beginning. And what we were trying to do,
Doc the coach, because that's what we started talking about. Is he the coach?
Doc is the coach. Yes, he is.
No. Do you believe he is the best coach for this team? Forget the money for a second.
Yep.
Is he the best coach for this team?
It doesn't look like it right now. They got a losing record with Doc at the helm, Tone. I mean, I think they 5 games under 500 since he got the job. They're 5 games under 500 since he got the job.
That's including last season.
And they've had some misfortune. You know, Giannis wasn't available for the whole playoffs last year. You know, they lost Giannis for like I think the last 3 games of the regular season, and then on top of them losing Giannis for the last 3 games of the regular season, I mean, they ended up losing him for the playoffs. And then coming into this season, no Chris Middleton. And not only no Chris Middleton, I mean, he ended up having surgery on his ankle. So this is the second year in a row he's missed training camp. He didn't do anything last year in training camp. This year also, he hasn't done anything in training camp. He hasn't played at all. So now this is an integral part of what they're trying to do. Who's on the books for what? $33 million? So, I mean, can I blame it all on Doc? Even though I'm watching them play Boston, and Boston is a very switch-heavy team, right? Boston is a very switch-heavy team. In the process of them being a switch-heavy team, Milwaukee ended up hunting mismatches where we got Drew Holiday switched on to Giannis. Why isn't Giannis going after him? I originally had to walk that take back because I'm like, yo, this is coaching. No, it ain't. That's Giannis having to go after Drew Holiday. He had 27 points in the first half. Sure, he did.
But isn't part of that also coaching?
Part of it is, sure. But in the part of it that's coaching is him putting Giannis in that space where we hunt the mismatch, we get the mismatch. Now Giannis, is up to you to now handle that.
Like, I don't know. Like, have we ever talked about Giannis's high basketball IQ?
We have not.
So maybe that's on the coach to make sure he understands when you get that kind of mismatch. Because you can't, I'm sorry, like, he is an athletic freak. We all give him credit for that. He is a defensive menace. But we don't talk about his basketball IQ. We don't talk about him. Like, when have we ever said, wow, he really took advantage of that mismatch? Do you ever remember having that conversation about Giannis ever?
No, not with
I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm saying I've never heard anyone say that. Someone's going to pull up some film and say, look, here, he did. But that's Doc's role, to put him into those positions to understand what he needs to do. So some of it, I'm not going to put all the blame on either one. Some of it is Doc. Some of it is Doc.
Yeah. But not all of it, though, Tone.
Not all of it. Not all of it.
Not all of it. Doc. No, not all of it.
I agree.
I
agree. Not all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot easier to get rid of the coach than it is the players. Although, you know me, I'd blow this thing up.
3 coaches in 3 years?
Okay, keep the coach. Trade everybody.
We can't. Well, here's the thing. I mean, Giannis just signed this extension. I said this last year, Tone, when he signed that extension. I said this is a 3-year window because Damian Lillard is going to start. After next year. I think Damian Lillard starts slowing down. He'll be 35 going into the season next year. I feel like next year is the last year.
To trade him. High value. Because next year, if he starts to slow down, people see he starts to slow down, his value won't be as high.
So this is probably the best time you can get something for him.
Yeah, you said his stats are good, right?
I think he's 20. I think he's 24. No, I'm sorry. He's 27, almost 27 and 7 this season. I mean, he's not shooting great. He's shooting like 44, 45%. He's shooting like 35% on the long ball. And he didn't look great against Boston. That's because Drew Holiday boxed him right up. But something has to change, Tone. And it's not Giannis. We're not moving off Giannis. We're not doing that.
I am.
If you're moving off Giannis, Tone, that means we got to start over.
Starting over.
But where are we going to get? Okay.
You're starting over.
If we're starting over, so we're going to build this thing through the draft again.
Yep.
So we got to empty the roster, because if we're moving off Giannis, that means that we got to get draft picks. Not only do we get draft picks,
you had your run. You had your run. You won your chip. The way the roster is constructed right now, you can't get better because you're a second apron team. You cannot get better. Your window for championships has closed. You tried to make a big splash. It was a big flop. It was a belly flop, and unfortunately, not a splash. So you're not going. All you're doing is wasting time and actually hurting Giannis's career in this, because he's going to be in Milwaukee not winning, and people look at winning and they're going to say, yeah, he had that one fluke year, won a chip, and that was it.
So if we're going to start over
And that's
top,
going to be his legacy. Now, I'm not saying that's Milwaukee's job to save his legacy, but their championship window it's not closing, it's closed. This team's not, told you at the beginning of the year, this team's not winning a championship. This team's not making the playoffs. Okay, maybe they creep into the play-in. Cool. How many play-in teams are winning championships in this NBA against that Western Conference?
I don't remember any play-in team since the play-in tournament started. I mean,
Right,
Miami went to
forget the play-in. How many 8, 9, how many 7, 8 seeds have won a chip?
none.
So
None.
play-in or not, like it does. They're a bottom tier team,
Right?
as constructed. Now, blame injuries, blame whatever you want. They're done. Move on. I'm sorry. It's a business, and I have to look at the long-term future. And if he wants to stay, so if you say, hey, this is what's going to happen, we're going to trade Dame, we're going to see if anyone will take Chris, right? We're going to move this, we're going to move that, blah blah blah.
No part of that.
We're not going to be good maybe for 2 or 3 years. You cool with that?
Nope.
Then cool, keep him. If he's like, hell no, then ship him, move.
He wants no part of that. He wants no part of a rebuild.
I know, but
yeah, that's why he signed the extension.
I think he's earned, right? Because he has signed those extension and he has been loyal. He's earned that conversation.
Sure.
To talk to him about it, and that's where Milwaukee should be, because they're off to a horrible start, and there's another team right there, not that far away. You could probably drive from one city to the next. That's off to one of the best starts in NBA history. 12-0.
Yes, sir.
12-0.
12-0.
I'm going to call them your Cleveland Cavaliers, because you've been saying this for 2 years. They're coming. They're coming. They're coming. It looks like they're here.
And I'm still trying to convince you. It's Tone. Let me tell y'all something. Tone is a hard sell. Holy shit, man. Let me tell y'all something about my guy Tone. Tone is a very hard sell. Oh man, I gotta dig deep into my selling, into my salesman bag when I'm dealing with Tone, because I cannot. I mean, it's hard to sell Tone. And I told him this 2 years ago. He wouldn't listen. I told him this last year. Yeah, no. Now this year, he's starting to. He pulled up. He at least he pulled up the chair to the desk.
It is at the.
This year, that's what he's doing. He pulled up the chair to the table, and now I think I have his attention. Right? 2 years ago, I did not have his attention. He wasn't buying it at all. This year, he's actually pulled up the table. He pulled up the chair to the table. He's got his elbow on the table, and he's listening. He's interested.
When we're talking about the best teams in the NBA, for the first time, Cleveland.
You just made the list.
Yes, they did.
For the first time, they made the list.
Now, here's what I was trying to sell you, Tone. Okay, this is what I was trying to sell you years ago. Okay, so you got an all-star level point guard in Darius Garland, who in year 3 makes the all-star team. In the process of him making an all-star team, Cleveland gives him a max deal for $192 million. So essentially what you're telling me is I'm the guy and they give me the ball, right? Well, no, they don't give me the ball, because they immediately trade for Donovan Mitchell. Okay, what's going on here? I mean, do I have the ball or do I not have the ball? And remember, we're talking about a 21-year-old kid. We're not talking about a 6-7-year vet. We're talking about a kid who doesn't really know what's going on. So then you draft Evan Mobley, who, you know how I feel about Evan Mobley, one of the better defensive players. I thought he was going to be the rookie of the year that year. The next year, he ends up finishing in the top 3 in defensive player of the year. This thing is working, but they get to the playoffs.
He was second in rookie of the year voting, right? Yes. To Scotty Barnes, who was the first player since Magic to start at every position. So although you had him as rookie, he was still pretty close. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
So with that being said, he finishes the next year, he finishes 3rd in defensive player of the year. This guy is panning out. Okay, maybe the offense isn't panning out as fast as you'd like, but this thing is starting to work. But then last year, he ends up breaking down. He gets hurt. He misses almost half the season. But then in the process of that, you got some really good rotation guys in Jared Allen. In Karis LeVert, in Dean Wade, but they will also beat up. You trade for Donovan Mitchell. This team is coming together. but they're kids. They get roughed up in the playoffs. They end up playing against the Knicks, and they get roughed up in the playoffs. Then last year, they start to put it together a little in the middle of the season. I think they had won at one point 16 in a row, or 16 out of 17 they had won. And I'm still Bo and Tone, this thing is working. He's not buying it. No, he's not buying it. Now here we are. Donovan Mitchell has essentially gotten in to Darius Garland's ear. He's what Boudini Brown was to Muhammad Ali. Hey, there's nobody out here better than you. You the best boxer on the planet. Can't nobody see you. Nobody. Donovan Mitchell is in Darius Garland's ear. Yo, you're the best point guard in the league. Play downhill. Do your thing. Don't worry about me getting off. I'm going to get off. I promise you that. On the process of that, Evan Mobley was in the lab. With Evan Mobley being in the lab, he came back better, more aggressive as an offensive player. I think he's the defensive player of the year this year. And I've seen what Wemby is doing as a rim protector, but I'm talking about overall as a defensive player. I've seen what Evan Mobley is doing this year and how he impacts that Cleveland defense, how much better they are with him on the floor than when he's not on the floor. And I think he's the defensive player of the year this year. Jared Allen playing around the rim the way he was playing. I thought he should have made the All-Star team last year. Dean Wade, who I think is now pushing Max Strus for that small forward spot. When Max Strus comes back, he's going to be in trouble for that small forward spot because I think Dean Wade has been doing a fantastic job. So a couple in Karis LeVert coming off the bench. And on top of that, a guy from the scrap heap in Ty Jerome, who nobody thought was still any good, but he can play. And he's been really effective on his Cleveland team. So you got one of the better starting fives in the game. In addition to having one of the better starting fives in the game, you got a rotation of 9 guys, and you got a damn good coach, because I didn't particularly like losing J.B. Bickerstaff. I think J.B. Bickerstaff is a damn good coach. But come to find out that they're going after Kenny Atkinson. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. Kenny Atkinson's a damn good coach. He got ran out of Brooklyn by KD. I'm not going to say by KD, but he got ran.
Superstar chump.
He got ran out of Brooklyn. And in the process of him getting ran out of Brooklyn, they end up hiring Steve Nash, who didn't even want the damn job, but they end up hiring Steve Nash. With them hiring Steve Nash, that thing was a disaster. Kenny Atkinson is on the bench in Golden State, and they're doing work. I love the attitude that he's brought to Cleveland. I love everything about this team, Tone. Now, can they keep it up? That's the $1 million question. They're not going 82-0. Let's get to the bottom of that right now, ladies and gentlemen. The Cavs are going to lose at some point. They're not going 82-0. That's good. That's not going to happen. However,
since we like doing this, okay, sorry, go. You keep going. I'm going to pull up their schedule. Go ahead.
So with that being said, right? With that being said, I was looking at what they have going on, and I don't think it's ridiculous for me to think that this team could win 60 games this year. That's ridiculous at all.
I think 60 games. When you start 12-0, like I think 60 games is
feasible. It's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
It's not ridiculous to say. So let's take a look.
Mm-hmm.
So the next up, they've got the 76ers.
No Joel Embiid, because he doesn't play back-to-backs.
Yep. The Bulls.
They beat them. And the Bulls, they just beat the Bulls last night. I think they beat the Bulls.
The Hornets.
I think they beat them. LaMelo Ball is playing like he's at the rec center.
The Celtics in Boston.
That's where it gets tricky, Tone.
And it's an NBA, and it's a
tournament game.
Tournament game.
Yes, that's where it gets tricky, Tone. If they could get by them.
If they can get by them, listen to what awaits them after that.
Yep.
The Pelicans.
W.
The Raptors.
W.
And back-to-back with the Hawks.
I think that's 20 wins, Tone. I think they're 20-0.
It's that Boston game. They go into December again. They start the month off with the Celtics. So I don't think they beat them both times.
I don't. No, I don't.
Then,
if they get by them, if they
got
get
the
by
Wizards,
them, W.
The Nuggets, but at home.
I don't think they beat Denver at home. I don't think they beat Denver.
Then it goes Hornets, Heat, Bucks, Sixers, Jazz, Nuggets again. So Nuggets in Denver. I think that's a loss. But that looks to me like it's they could be what was that, 20? Another 10 is 30. They could be like 28-2.
That's not ridiculous.
27-3 is not crazy.
It's not. It's not crazy to think that they can keep rolling like this. And Jared Allen, I know Jared Allen, he messed up his foot last night, but I don't think it's serious because they would have reported that it was serious if it was something like that. They didn't say anything about it, so I'm cool with it. I'm good with it. I love everything about this team, Tone, and I'm gonna keep pushing the Cleveland propaganda. Now, can they win the NBA championship this year? I'm not going that far because I don't think that they're better than Boston. I don't. However, I would not be surprised if they were in the East Finals this year. That would not. I said that to you. I said that to you this summer. I said that to you before the season started. I would not be surprised if Cleveland was in the East Finals this year, and I'm standing on that.
Listen, they're the only two teams over 500. They should be the two teams in there. Are threes hurting the NBA?
Yes, I do think threes are hurting the NBA because I think it's taken away from the other aspects of the game where guys are great. But I think the problem is that analytics have swayed people to think that threes are necessary.
And that's, you stole my answer, because I don't think it's necessarily the three so much. It's that the analytics say that the three, because what analytics don't take into account for is actually playing basketball. Because we've already talked about this. Twos get fouled more. Fouls put teams in trouble and changes the way what they can do both offensively and defensively.
Right.
It slows down the game. It changes, when they get into the bonus. Like, there's so many things that happen when you mix up where you score from, and the proof is in the pudding. Because when you look at the playoffs, look what happens. They don't shoot as many threes. They do play some defense.
Right.
They do. Oops, I did the wrong thing with that one. I'm trying to delete it. They do. Where are the mods at? They do shoot more mid-range.
Sure.
Right? Like, and then you get threes beat twos. No, they don't. Go and look. The teams that win the NBA championship aren't the team that hit the most threes. They're not. They're not.
The Celtics were last season, right?
But there's always the exception to the rule.
Absolutely.
When you go back and look, I've said this before. The last team that shot the most threes in the NBA to win an NBA championship was the '95 Houston Rockets.
Right. It wasn't the Warriors in 2017.
It wasn't the Warriors. It wasn't right. Like, the Warriors shot more threes than Cleveland. Cleveland came back from a 3-1 deficit and beat them.
That was almost 30 years ago.
Right.
That was almost 30 years ago.
You get people who clearly don't know basketball who are like, mid-range is the most inefficient shot in basketball. No, because you're forgetting that you're also getting fouled 15% of the time when you shoot them. It's all part of it's putting pressure on the defense. And again, I used the example last year. Jamal Murray couldn't hit a damn thing from three, starts hitting the mid-range, hits the game winner over Anthony Davis to win the game. Go watch playoff basketball. Now, regular season, let's be clear. Regular season is different. Regular season, threes can win you a ton of games in the regular season. Sure. AKA Mike D'Antoni's Phoenix Suns, right? That team shot more threes. It was 6-7 years later before the Warriors caught up with how many threes they were shooting. I want to say Quentin Richardson averaged 8.2 threes a game. Right. It was, I believe it was Steph's 6th or 7th season, Steph's, where he caught up to him. What I'm saying? They were shooting threes and they did great in the regular season. How they do in the playoffs?
Flamed out.
You got to do other things. So
flamed out. And that's the point when you're talking about when you're talking about shooting the long ball, which I personally think when I watch the Celtics that it's all by design. Because when I watch Jason Tatum get to the rim, and that's why he doesn't. That's why Jason Tatum doesn't finish at a high rate at the rim as any other small forward in previous years would, because he's kicking the ball out for threes. when he's in the mid post. He's kicking the ball out at the rim for threes because that's by design. It's not because he can't score at the rim. No, he's doing that because Drew Holiday is wide open at the long ball line. Al Horford is wide open at the long ball line. Derek White is open at the long ball line. And that's what's preached. Get up as many threes as possible. I personally think, Tone, and I'm not on the fence about this. I honestly believe that if Coach Mazzulla can shoot all threes, he would do that. If he could shoot all threes, if we could have Tone, they shoot 94 threes. I'm sorry, they shoot 94 shots a game. Almost 50 of them are threes. That's more than half our shots. That's more than half the shots.
We did the analysis last year. If you remember, we looked at all the biggest blowout wins and losses. When they're on with the three, they blow them out. When they're off, they get blown out.
Sure.
Well, there's way too much variable there, and that's the problem. Is I have this clip. I don't know if I have it handy. Yeah. Let me. If I have it handy, I'm going to show it. But it's crazy to think this isn't something that is a surprise. Like there's guys that are giving up. Maybe I don't have it. There's guys that. Oh, I do have it. Okay, hold on. You have to bear with me a second. So this is during the Bulls game. Check this out. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Bear with me a second. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. So check this out. This isn't uncommon. People are gonna think this is a great. No, this is not an uncommon thing. In today's NBA.
Look at that. Wide open. Wide open. Wide open at the rim.
I'm going to show you. So he gave up a 2 for a 0.
Yeah, gave up a short 2 for a 0. So yeah, three's more than 2, but 2's more than 0. 2 is more than 0. And last time I checked, 100% of the teams that won did what, Chill?
Oh, they scored more points than the other team. That's what happened.
It doesn't matter where the points come from.
Yeah, we scored more points than you. That's 100% a fact. So when you're passing up, like I said, Tone, I'm watching Jason Tatum right in the middle of the lane, or I'm watching Jason Tatum. He can finish with his weak hand. Instead, he's got Drew Holiday right there in the corner, and he fires it out to Drew Holiday, who he ended up making that one. He does the same thing in the second half, where he gets in the lane and he's in the mid post and he's open. Giannis is at the rim, but he's open in the mid post. Right? He's open in the mid post. He fires it out to Drew Holiday, who misses the three. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm passing up a sure thing for a 2 because I like Jason Tatum in the mid post. I'm passing up a short thing in the mid post for Drew Holiday shooting the long ball. That's got to be by design, Tone. It has to be.
It's funny when people say, "Well, they shoot more threes now because they're better shooters." So why can't they hit a mid range? Why can't they hit a foul line jumper? If they're such good shooters, why can't they make these shots?
Shooting isn't just at the long ball line. It's not.
But that's my point, because what is open? Watch a game. What is open all the time? Because the defense has now stretched out to the 3. It's it's that foul line mid-range kind of area. It's open all the time. The baseline corner open all the time. Get the ball there and shoot it.
Jay, nobody's saying, and I think, Jay, what you're confusing is you're confusing shooting the mid-range with shooting the long ball exclusively. Nobody's saying to take the long ball out of the game. No, I'm not saying that.
It's a mix. It's a mix.
But to pass up, right? But to pass up wide open looks, but to pass up shots at the rim for possible threes that you're gonna miss. That's not good basketball. It's not. That's just not good basketball at all.
When you're giving up shots that are 60% at the rim for a 3, that's not smart. This is not. Now, is this wonderful play? Is this wonderful play an exaggeration?
No,
it's not.
because it's not. It
What's
just
going on?
happened. You've seen it.
This is what's going on. 100%. Because I've seen plenty of times where guys pass up open looks like this, to kick the ball out for somebody to shoot a long ball. No, man, no, that's just not realistic. It's just not.
All right, because I threw it in the chat. We're gonna get to the people jumping on, but I do want to show you one thing quickly because this was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Baron Davis shared his "Can't Guard Me" Mount Rushmore, and there's 3 guys that everyone's like, duh: Kobe, Tracy, Wade, and Nick Van Exel. Now pause there for a second, because this is why I brought this up, because our good friend Shaq was on with Baron Davis, and he shared his Mount Rushmore. And you've got Baron Davis, Allen Iverson, Steve Smith, and Nick Van Exel. Now, as a Laker fan, I've been talking about Nick for a long time. Made both of their lists, but like the average person never talks about Nick Van Exel ever.
No. Which is interesting because I'm on record saying that that's who De'Aaron Fox reminds me of. He reminds me of Nick Van Exel. Yep. That's when I saw him, I'm like, that's a more athletic version of. That's who he reminds me of. And a lot of times I'll say that stuff when I say people remind me of somebody. People think that I automatically mean that's the same player. No, Tone, you've seen a woman who she doesn't look like another woman, but she reminds me of Kelly. She reminds me of Sharon. She might not look like Sharon, but she kind of reminds me.
You were telling me you've seen a woman who looks like Curry. Like, you're not saying she's identical, but she shoots like Curry. She passes like Curry. Yeah, okay. Sneed's up first. What's going on?
What up, Fluent? What up, Chill?
You.
All right, man. The 3-point shot. The most inefficient shot in an NBA game is a challenge 3-pointer from 26 feet. It's gotten ridiculous. Like, anywhere else in the world, kids, young players are getting benched for stuff like that. But in the NBA, it's become the culture is to just take threes. And they say things like, well, we got the analytics to prove that threes are the best. Challenge threes with time on the shot clock, the worst shot. I mean, you got to be kidding me. If there's 2 seconds on the shot clock and you just got to put up a shot, you got to look at the rim, then just take it. But if there's time and you can run your offense and get the ball moving, you got to be kidding me. There's got to be a better shot than that.
Now, don't get me wrong, Sneed. Don't get me wrong. I mean, threes count for more than twos, as we know. And if you make more threes than I make twos, more times than not, you're probably going to win.
But these guys have no reservations taking a 26-footer challenge.
Right.
That's crazy. So what I'm saying is make it a closer 3, like if you can swing the ball around a little bit,
right,
and just get a better 3. But you really should just be moving the ball for the sake of your offense. The ball shouldn't be stuck. I'm watching the Cavs. The ball is moving. It's like a ping pong ball. It's going all over the place. They're getting quality looks. Guys like Ty Jerome are getting to the rim. These guys are scoring 125 a night on games where they're not hitting a lot of threes. They hit threes, but they're not taking 55. And I'm looking at the volume, right? If a guy makes 2 out of 3 threes in a game, and the next game he makes 1 out of 3, that's not sufficient data or evidence to suggest that he's a good 3-point shooter. He's taking them when they're available if he's taking 3. I got guys taking 13, 14 threes, and they're making 3 or 4 of them. Why? Why am I doing this? Just because it's worth more? No, sir. Right? That's so all I'm saying is and this goes back to the Cavs. Okay, Donovan Mitchell gets a clean look at the rim. I'm good with him taking a challenge 23-footer because he's proving at like 45% or whatever it is, the percentage is good enough to warrant it. Yep. I'm not having guys making 35%, 33%, taking 14 a game. No.
Well, no and I think, we talk about the analytics. The analytics doesn't take into effect what you just said, which is situational. Right? It doesn't talk about at what point in the shot clock and what that affects, how that affects the defense. That's the other part, right? Because on the average NBA team hits what 35% of their threes, I believe is the number.
League average, I think, is 36%.
36%. So that means they miss 64%. And with long shots become long rebounds. With long rebounds, you get fast breaks. With fast breaks, you get easy dunks and layups. And guess what's the most efficient shot? Is still a dunk or layup at 65, 70%.
Facts.
So not only are yes, it's great, but then you're giving up two the other way, or at least an opportunity for two the other way. So it negates all of that, and that's why no one takes into into account at all. Now, what the analytics will tell you as well, if you take 100 shots and you hit 35 of them, that's 105 points. And if you take 100 shots and only hit 45 of them, like from the mid range, well, that's 90 points. That's a 15-point swing. Yeah, that's true. That's 100% true. But that would mean you're exclusively taking one shot or the other. And then again, you're not including how many of those misses went back and they scored on versus how many. Again, I go back to the fouls that you're going to make 77% of because you're getting fouled 15% versus 1% on threes. It makes up the difference. And again, not preaching not to do it. I'm a 3-point shooter. I love shooting threes. That's my favorite thing. I got my youth team. We've got a mix of 25% of our shots and plays create a 3-point shot. I love my team shoot. You see my son. I showed the clips earlier today shooting threes. I love it in the flow of the offense. To your point, Sneed, in the right time. Like it's not like dribble up and shoot it, right?
Yeah.
It's in the flow of the offense at the right time when it's needed. So
Anyway, I watched the Celtics tonight lose because they just wanted to take threes. That was it.
Oh,
they were just hell bent on taking threes. And what the Hawks did, the Hawks had no business winning this game. The Hawks won because they challenged the three and they held them to one shot. They got the rebound and went the other way. They didn't give them a second three. They didn't give them a second shot at it. You didn't see 14 seconds reset and then they reset up their offense. They didn't get that and they lost. So to me, unnecessarily relying on the three when you don't really have the clientele, your roster doesn't show that these guys should be taking 15 threes each. Not Jaylen Brown, not Jason Tatum, none of that.
They took 45 threes, and look, they hit 40% of them. They still hit a good percent, but 40, and they only took 32s.
I just feel like they could have got better shots. They should not have just been, hey, we just got to take threes.
So here now we're gonna bring on the opposite side of the argument. Sneed, anything else?
Let's look at the turnovers. Let's look at the rebounds. Let's look at those difference-making plays. We can start counting possessions because that's what it might come down to. When they get all those, when they start taking all those threes, did they come off as second chances? Those are free plays.
Mm-hmm.
Then the threes, you're like, okay, well, maybe we should take more threes. Yeah, if you're getting an extra 15 possessions because you're getting offensive rebounds, yeah, take more threes.
All right, Jay, hold on. We're going to hear now the other side.
Mm-hmm.
What's good, fellas? Peace, Fluent.
Yo, man, how you doing? Nice to see you. Hear you.
All right, so I guess what you guys just failed to realize, and I guess you just don't understand with the nostalgia of the 1900s, is that basketball is changing. For you to get the most high efficient shot, which is at the rim, which in today's NBA, they shoot about 64% at the rim. For you to get that shot, you must be able to shoot the 3-point. If you cannot shoot the 3-pointer, you'll never get the most high efficient shot in basketball, which is at the rim. The whole point is that when you're shooting 36% on average from 3-point land, the only shot that beats it is at the rim. You're never going to get every shot at the rim. And what you're not calculating, Fluent, is that there's defense on the floor. So as much as you say the long rebounds and transition and fouls calls, teams play better defense. Players play better defense today. So getting your actual shot at the rim is way much more difficult unless you have the 3 ball. That's the only way you can take advantage of it. So you must shoot the 3 and be efficient at it. The players that you're talking about that's taking 10, 15 threes, they shoot it at an efficient rate. 36, 37, 38%. We got guys shooting 50% 3-point land. LeBron is shooting. That is efficient.
No, it's not, Jay. No, it's not, Jay. That's not, man.
It is
when
not
you shoot, Jay, when you shoot, hold on, Tone. Jay, when you're shooting 15 threes and you're only making 5 of them, that's not efficient, brother. That's not.
That's not
That's not
35%.
efficient that's not efficient at all. That's a third of what you're making.
That's not 35, 36%. Again, if you're shooting 35, 36, 37, 38% from the three-point line, it is more efficient than shooting 42% from mid-range, which is elite. Matter of fact, it's better than shooting 50% at the mid-range, which is super elite from mid-range. It's better than shooting 60% at the rim. That's what you guys fail to realize. The analytics is not missing out on
Jay, can I
anything.
throw some numbers at you, bro?
Go ahead.
Okay. The Atlanta Hawks shot 50% from field goal tonight. The
Yes.
Celtics shot 51.
Yes.
The Celtics shot 40 from 3.
Mm-hmm.
The Hawks shot 30.
Yes.
Free throw percentage, the Celtics shot 81. The Hawks 54.
Yes.
The difference maker was 20 turnovers for the Celtics,
Mm-hmm.
16 for the Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
The offensive rebounds for the Hawks,
Mm-hmm.
20. The Celtics, 6.
Mm-hmm.
This game was won on the boards.
Okay.
This game was won on turnovers. This game went down to a single play. It had nothing to do with threes, did not even matter in this game. It was offensive rebounds for the Hawks, and it was single shot possessions for the Celtics.
Okay. And who said that shooting more three-pointers eliminates you having to rebound and not turn over the basketball?
But that's my point. That's where the analytics didn't matter because the game still relies on not turning the ball over and getting second chance opportunities more so than your opponent.
Yeah, but it never took that out of the factor. It never said that doesn't matter. Analytics never said turnovers don't matter. Analytics never said not rebounding doesn't matter. You got that on your own positions. It never said.
But analytics also, Jay, don't tell me that I got to shoot the 3 ball more than I got to shoot the 2. That doesn't tell me that.
No, but it's not the analytics that tell you that. It's not the analytics that tells them that. It's the defense
that you're missing.
The defense doesn't tell me that neither, because if the defense told me that, then guys, no, it doesn't, Jay. And the reason why it doesn't tell me that, because if it told me that, then guys like DeMar DeRozan wouldn't still be starting in the NBA. He wouldn't be. Guys like DeMar DeRozan wouldn't still be starting in the NBA. He'd be gone.
DeMar DeRozan could still shoot the three-pointer. DeMar DeRozan could still shoot the three-pointer.
He averages 2 threes a game, Jay. Come on, man. He lives in the mid-range. He lives in the mid-range.
Again, you're talking about DeMar DeRozan, right? Who is what? A guy who's not making all NBA teams like that. He's not making all-star teams like that because they're better players than him that shoot the 3. Again, the mid-range is also not disappeared. The players shoot better from the mid-range today than ever in NBA history. You guys forget to realize that. It's the fact that teams could play defense. I can strategize defensively to prevent you from getting to the actual paint. The only way to make you change that is by me having to go guard you in the perimeter. So I must go guard you in the 3-point lane, which allows me to actually get the paint, to get the close.
How would you strategizing, because you shoot the long ball, right? How would you strategizing to keep me out of the paint when, again, this is one of the most skilled eras that we play in. This is one of the most athletic eras that we play in. Guys get to the rim with the best of them. They're faster, they're bigger, they're stronger, their handle is better. How are you strategizing? Is it only because you shoot the 3? And I'm asking you that off the strength that guys shot the 3 in the 1900s, which you scoff at and you dismiss on the regular. Chris Mullin shot the 3. Dale Ellis shot the 3. Mark Price shot the 3. Mitch Richmond shot the 3. Gary Payton shot the 3. There's a number of different guys who shot the long ball. Now they're not doing it at the volume that these guys are doing it today, but they still shot the 3. So the idea that just shooting the 3 is what's keeping what's keeping me away from the basket, that's just not true, Jay.
It is true because, again, back in 1994, when you're naming all those guys who were great shooters, nobody's going to say those guys were not great shooters. There was only like 30 players that can shoot over 35%, like 30 to 40 players. Today's NBA has over 130 players that can shoot over 35% from the 3-point line. It is just better shooting. And the reason that is because in today's NBA, I can play better defense like I couldn't do in the 1900s, where it was just man-on-man defense. And now I can just post up and go to the post and get that shot because it's easier to get that shot than somebody shooting a 3-pointer at less than 30%, which is completely inefficient. Again, they didn't shoot the ball that well back then. They actually gave them the WNBA line, and they still couldn't shoot the ball as good as they shoot it today. Again, the players today shoot better. There's centers. There's 10 centers in today's NBA that shoot 35% or better. because again, the 3-point line is necessary
There's no
to
question.
space. You have to cover that 30 feet.
Yeah.
You can't no longer cutting just
There's no question
50
that it's become a bigger part of the game. And no one's saying that 3-point shots should be eliminated. That's not what anyone is saying. What our conversation was that you can't eliminate the rest of the floor and be shooting 60% of your field goal attempts being threes, because that is a recipe for disaster for most teams. And the one team that was able to do it was Boston last year and win. But throughout history, even the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2020s, a team that shoots that many and doesn't do anything else is going to lose. You have to have a mix. To your point, of course, if you can stretch the floor and shoot threes, you open up driving lanes and you open up plays at the basket 100%. But threes, as analytics will show you, is you live by it and you die by it. And the only way to eliminate those blowout losses is to have additional things in your arsenal, not just threes. Boston today proved that they could lose to a lesser team in Atlanta because they were shot 60% of their field goal attempts were threes. And that's a team that they should beat every single night. Every single night, the Celtics are more talented than that team. They should not lose to them. And it's because they fell in love with something, and you can't do that. No one's saying everything you said is factually true. They shoot more threes. They shoot it at a higher clip. Players have never been this good at shooting the ball from deep. 1,000% I agree with you. However, you're not always going to be on. And if you don't have those other things, you're going to lose games you should win.
Fluent. Derek White scored 30+ points tonight. And the Celtics lost.
You just stated why, though.
The Celtics gave up. The
Not hitting
Celtics gave up 68 points in the paint. This is why they lost. The threes didn't matter.
68 points in the paint.
68 points in the paint.
I understand all of that. But again, all of that is predicated on the fact that the actual Atlanta Hawks shoot threes. How many threes did the Atlanta Hawks shoot?
32.
Okay, that's a lot of 3-pointers. The average.
It's not a lot. No, it's not. The Celtics average 50 a game.
Threes now. That's what we're going to say. That's a lot of 3-point shooting, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about that's over 7 shots per quarter. How many shots?
32 threes in an NBA game today is average or below average.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying, because you have to, because it's a 3-point era. If you're telling them to shoot it 15 times like the 1990s,
you're proving your point wrong.
I just my biggest issue is how Jay just dismisses the 1990s.
I'm not dismissing them.
Yes,
okay, this
you
was
are, man. You want us to just get rid of what's going on. A lot of the stuff that these guys do today is predicated on how the game was played back then. And this is all predicated. This is all predicated on how. This is all predicated on your dismissal of the Zesties. And I know how you feel about the Zesties, because I feel the same way about them dudes.
Chill. I didn't even bring them up. Chill. Listen, the same way they use the mid-range. The same way they used the mid-range back then, they just used the 3-pointer. That's the only difference from back then and now. They still take the same amount of shots in the paint as they did back then. The only difference now is that they don't take as many mid-range shots as they did back then. They just take them as 3-pointers. And they're more efficient at all the spots on the floor. Like, I don't understand what's the beef. I don't understand what you're arguing about. There was great basketball on tonight because of the fact that
the analytics say, Jay? The analytics say if a guy shoots 40+%, let him take 15 threes.
Yes, definitely.
That's all. That's it. Anything less than that, you're losing your damn mind.
You 40+%.
In today's NBA, it was over 70 guys. I believe I was counting it.
40?
Not 40. I'm sorry, not 40%. It was close to like 30 or 40 players that shoot 40% or better. The NBA can shoot. These guys are shooters. These guys practice this shot. You guys don't understand that all shots.
In today's game, real quick, Tone, because I got to bounce. But in today's game, okay, right now, Anthony Edwards shoots over 40% at the long ball. Anthony Edwards, Norman Powell, Peyton Pritchard, Donovan Mitchell, Derek White, Buddy Hield, Darius Garland, Tyler Hero, Dennis Schroeder, Kyrie Irving, Michael Porter Jr., Tim Hardaway Jr.,
great,
Jordan Poole,
great,
Garrison Matthews,
great.
Who is that?
Steph Curry.
You said the GOAT. Yeah, the GOAT.
Lou Dort.
Jordan retired years ago.
Zach LaVine, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Jose Alvarado.
Oh, he said it, man.
Nas Reed. Let's
Listen,
see.
I, I
look,
ran out of
Joker.
look, there's
I ran out of
40
chill.
players,
I
but
ran
you're
out
also shooting
chill.
in those 40 players, half of them are shooting less than 3 a game.
That's what I'm saying.
So
Fluent. Those
you're
are the
not
only guys that should be
You
taking
go,
volume
Yannick.
threes.
You're still
That's
good
like
at it.
that's like
Guard them.
one a
You're not-
game.
good at it. They're good at it, but again, you're comparing it to a time when a coach would bench you first experience if you went out and shot 3 threes and made them.
Not because I couldn't do
Okay.
it, but because that wasn't part of the plan.
It's
But guys,
just-
unfortunately, I got to
Oh, wait,
bounce.
let me
Our
ask
time
y'all
is up.
this.
Time is up. Our time is up.
Let me ask y'all this. Okay, so the analytics offensively says to shoot the 3. So with that being said, what does the analytics say defensively? What do I do if that's what the analytics say on offense? What is my strategy defensively based on analytics?
Guard the long ball line. That's based on analytics. Guard the
See?
long ball line.
And that's why I show up every morning to talk on Chill Town on TikTok Live NBA Morning Basketball, because Chill talks basketball. Shout out to you, Sports Fluent. You keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate your channel. I love all the work you're doing, man. You guys got some great stuff going on here. I appreciate the brother to the right of me.
Playback. I want to play back and watch Chill talk basketball in a live game.
Hey, listen, my Heat just lost, so thank you for letting me vent real quick. Y'all have a great evening.
Anytime,
Peace.
brother.
Later, brother. Good to talk
Always
to
have
you.
time for you, man.
Absolutely. All
Thank
right,
you,
Steve.
Jones.
Good to talk to you, brother. Mm-hmm.
Just call your mother. Why didn't it work? Call your mother.
Oh, Canada.
Put on a suit, drink water. Don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.